Hey guys, how are you? I hope you're all doing very well. This afternoon I'm going to be doing another movie review, so I hope you find this one interesting. This movie is a horror film from France, French language English subs, released in the year 2016, directed by Lucille Hadzi-Halivovich, and this film is called Evolution. So Evolution is set on this very mysterious island. You've got these mothers who are looking after their young sons. So it appears to be harmonious enough. It's a beautiful, picturesque community where the young boys are swimming and the mothers are watching them. And then one day, this main character, who's one of these young boys, he's going swimming, he looks under the surface and he sees what he believes is a young boy on the ocean floor who's drowned. So he has a starfish on his stomach. So this kid is freaked out. He goes to his mother, he says what he's seen. So the mother says, okay, I'll go and check it out for you. So when she comes back, she says, look, there's no dead boy, you're seeing things, the ocean can do that to you, but I have found this starfish. So the rest of the community take this as a reasonable explanation that this kid has been seeing things, but this kid is adamant that what he saw is reality, and the reason why this mother said that there was nothing there is that she's hiding something from him, and not only him but the rest of this community. So he wants to do a little bit of investigating as to what's really going on, but the closer he gets to the truth, the more he realises that not only himself but the rest of these boys are in grave danger, and that danger is inside this local hospital. So it's going to basically give the reason as to why these boys are here, and it's not going to be a very happy outcome. So what that outcome is something you're going to have to find out for yourself, because that's as far as I'm going with my synopsis. Now, my thoughts on Evolution. I was very excited for this film for two reasons. Now, before coming into a film, I always like to give myself a reason to be excited, and this movie definitely did that. Number one, I'm a French horror fanatic. You know, between the years 2000 and 2010, French horror was very prolific, and they were continuously churning out films that were very memorable. But since 2010 to present day, they have hit a bit of a wall. It's been very few and far between, and the movies that have been produced really haven't been that memorable. So I'm being a little bit disappointed. I think that French horror has lost its touch a little bit, and other countries from around the world are taking over. So I'm always hoping that there is this one French horror film that comes out that is really going to set the trend for a new wave. And that's exactly the expectation I had with Evolution. Didn't know exactly what to expect, but I was hoping that it would really blow me away. And number two, it is directed by Lucille Hadzi-Halivovich. Now, she is the wife of the brilliant Gaspar Noé, who's responsible for so many groundbreaking French films. If you are a fan of French cinema, you definitely know who Gaspar Noé is. So I was wondering, whether or not she would have a life of her own, or if she'd be paying a lot of, reminiscent qualities of her husband. So she hasn't directed a film since 2004. So that's a very long time in between the break. So I'm not quite sure why it was that long, but I was definitely intrigued. After seeing the trailer, I thought, okay, this looks quite interesting. And after seeing the film, I will say that it definitely is interesting. The movie doesn't always work, but it was certainly a very mesmerising experience. Now, this movie, the best way I can sum this up, is a poetic nightmare. This movie visually is absolutely phenomenal. It gives you the false impression that what you're actually seeing isn't necessarily how things are. And that's very relevant to today's society, is that you see people or you see communities that appear to be very harmonious, appear to be very much full of joy, but it's not necessarily how it is, and it shows you how looks can really deceive. And I think this movie does a great job at actually deceiving you with the way it looks. At the start of the film, you got this very picturesque and harmonious community where you feel that everything is right, but then underneath something is not right, and you feel like these visuals are done in a way where it's distracting you from the realities. And that's exactly how bad situations come about, is because you're not expecting them. So this movie is a perfect indication of that. It disorientates the viewer to believe that they're actually watching something that is not actually grounded in reality. So this is how Lucille Hadzi-Halivovich has gone about telling a story, and I think she does it in a very good ways, because you've got a lot of beauty, but it's very haunting beauty, is because you've got that underlying sense that something is very dreaded, that something is not quite right, and that everything you don't take on face value. So it's the ultimate mistake that you do in this film, is that you take everything for granted as to, these people are laughing, so ultimately this has to be a happy community, but no, it's not. And then as the movie slowly goes from picturesque and harmonious to a nightmare, you start to sense that the overall visuals are really matching the mood. And so when you start to get to the core heart, the evil heart that this film has, it starts to take you down this very surreal and nightmarish journey that you really experience. And although the movie does have its moments where it doesn't quite work, you still feel that you're watching a film that is very different from the recycled sort of garbage that a lot of other nations, as far as cinema is concerned, churn out on a daily basis. So if you want something that's really going to test you, then I definitely highly recommend Evolution. This is a movie full of double meanings, so once again, it's not everything that you see, you feel that it has a deeper purpose, you feel it has another meaning. And so a lot of people aren't going to like that. If you want your films that are basically no-brainer, no-brainers, Evolution is not for you. But for me, I think this movie does get you on a lot of layers. This is a movie about human evolution. This is a movie about, in the near future, how we evolve as human beings, and it does it in a very disturbing way where you can't help but look at it, but you just feel as though you feel very wrong for watching it. And so Lucille Hadlivovich has done a great job at not actually producing something of a horror story in the horror tropes as far as slashes are concerned. It's not a case of seeing monsters, it's a case of that overwhelming sense of dread that this community is not the harmonious community that would actually make out to be. So as far as visuals are concerned, absolutely fantastic. There are some very beautiful scenes that will actually capture you and actually feels like you're in a dream world. It feels like a very surreal sort of atmosphere that actually feels, as I said, although something bad might not be happening in one particular scene, you still feel that overwhelming sense that, okay, I'm in a dream that started off very good, but I know it's going to go to lengths that I'm not going to be comfortable with. So the story does evolve. I think the story does take very different directions. I thought the acting was very good, especially from the main boy. None of the actors really commanded on-screen presence. It didn't really require roles that they were very subdued roles, but I thought that subdued nature to the film actually makes it that monotonous sort of atmosphere that the film has, and that's what gives you the sense that these characters are so monotonous that they don't really feel like they have personalities of their own. So you feel that, okay, there has to be a reason why this is happening, and there has to be a reason why there is no men on this island. There has to be a reason why there are no young girls on this island. Why is it only boys, and why is it only mothers? And so there's all these questions there that beg answers, and that's ultimately what keeps your interest, and that actually keeps you glued to the screen, and you want to find out what's going on. But unfortunately, my biggest problem to this film is that you don't necessarily find out what's going on. I think this movie is very pretentious. Sometimes that pretentious value works, and in other moments, the pretentious value really weighs it down. I think it gets absorbed in its self-indulgence to a point where it felt like it didn't really have control. It feels like that ADHD, the attention deficit disorder child in the classroom who is colouring in a picture, starts off very well but can't keep the concentration. It's trying too much, and then all of a sudden it gets very, very messy. And that's exactly how I would sum this film up. It starts off very intriguing, but when it comes time to reveal itself, it feels very messy, and it feels like it goes from point A, but it never really meets point B to the level where you actually feel satisfied by what you get. So it does ask a lot of questions, but unfortunately for a lot of viewers it won't answer those questions, and it feels as though you think, okay, I watched a film that was incredibly bizarre, but I thought the overall, that poetic sort of nightmarish quality the movie has, I think it's substituted for a plot that wasn't very coherent and very disorientating. So although you feel like you've been on an experience and you've actually seen a very unique film, it doesn't necessarily make a lot of sense, and I think that it was too much of a symbolisation as the movie has, too many symbolisms to actually allow yourself to enjoy it for what it is. You're left scratching your head thinking, what did this scene mean? What did that scene mean? What did this scene mean? And so you're not really actually enjoying it as it goes along. You're actually trying to decipher things. So it actually feels like a chore rather than something you can actually watch and enjoy. So for that reason, a lot of people are not going to like this film, but for me, I liked it for the fact that it was unique, very, very nightmarish, and visually absolutely stunning. So Lucille Hadlivovich has created something that is not going to revive the French genre, but it's certainly a step in the right direction. So overall, for Evolution, I enjoyed it for what it is. I'm definitely not going to recommend it to everybody because a lot of people will just dismiss this as artistic crap. But for me, it was different, very, very intriguing, and as a result of that, I'm going to give Evolution 3.5 stars. Alright guys, that's it for my review. Hope you enjoyed it. Till next time you watch the movies, and I'll see you later.